This conference will now be recorded.
All right, great. Fine. So you're creating a storage account. Now I would say I already have a storage account out here. Let me go into my account and I already have, let's say, the storage account. So let me use this particular storage account out there so that I can upload my files in it. Now what I'm going to do firstly get my storage account. Okay. And I'll say storage account. And I'll say get hyphen az storage account hyphen resource group name, which is, let's say, prod1rg. Put it in here. Let's say the name of the storage account. So I'm taking the name of the storage account out here and I'll say, okay, fine, execute this command out. And if I look into what is there inside this, I have the storage account and all these things out. Now, let me see if we have a container inside it. Okay, I don't have a container. So firstly, I'll go ahead and basically create a new container out here. So what was the command to create a new container, guys? It is what? New hyphen az storage container. Name of the container test -01. Permission is off, meaning private. And now you need to pass in what? The context. And you have already done a get storage account, right? So I'll say storage account dot context. This is my context out here. So I'll say, okay, fine, go ahead, execute this out. And this will go ahead and create me a new container out here, which is good enough. Let's say if I go ahead and let's say refresh this out, I have a container. Now I would now like to go ahead and upload files into the container basically that we have created. Oh, sorry about that. Just give it a second. So what I'll do is like this. I know the command that it is said hyphen az storage blob content. This is the command that normally I use to upload my files from my local system to, let's say, the container out there. So I'll see the examples. What are they trying to do? So it's saying set hyphen az storage blob content, name of the container, name of the file, and then the context. These are the things that I would need to basically go ahead and upload my files. So let me come here again and say, okay, fine. I know that I want to upload my file right now. So which file again? Now I am working in this particular folder out here, which is called PowerShell practice. And I have like, a couple of files that we've been creating since yesterday. So let me upload a file called rgcreation.ps1, which is like a very simple file. So I'll say I'm uploading it. I'm doing a set hyphen az storage blob content hyphen the name of the container. Let me see if there is any variable out there. Okay, let me see what are the variables this is expecting. Okay, so you have the file, you have the container. Okay, and yeah, cool. So it's expecting something called as container. So I'll say it is test -01. Then it is expecting what? It is expecting a file. So I'll say I am just working in the same directory. So dot backslash rgcreation.ps1. Is it expecting anything else? It would have, or it should basically expect something called as a context. So let me try uploading this out. Let me see if it throws any errors. And it's done. So I am using all just the required parameters out here. Now the example doesn't show you need a context, but if you don't pass a context, right, it'll, the command will throw, start throwing errors out there. Akila, does this answer your question? Guys, did anyone practice this out?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
When I tried same, I got error. So now if I use context, it will work.
Yeah, so you definitely need to pass context whenever you're working with a storage account out here. So I am like, grabbing my context with this particular object. And if I just execute this particular line, right, only this particular statement out here, see, I am getting the entire context out. So I am passing this context firstly to authenticate my command, and secondly to make sure that I'm passing it in the right storage account and the right container out there. So you will have to pass context for sure. And sometimes Microsoft documentations are not that accurate. So if you can, come back and Google a couple of stuff, right? There are a lot of forums basically like Stack Overflow and all that stuff where they say, you know what, okay, you can upload this out in this way. Like you can do it in that way and all that stuff. So you have like the entire script that is given. So you can take the pieces of that script and, build your own. And honestly, believe me, even in real time scenario, there is no one who'll, mug up all these commands out there because PowerShell is very, very vast. And believe me, they're adding a lot of commands, going forward. There are new commands that are coming in. So you will never really know, or you will never need really, by heart all these things out. So what do we do is like we follow the documentation of Microsoft. We try it, we try it at our own, and then we finally give it, let's say, to the client. So that's how even we operate. And PowerShell is not that difficult language as such. So if you can look at a few examples, and if you understand the very basic, like for example, if I say you have to upload a blob, you do not have to upload 100 blobs. First upload one blob, see how is it working. And if you need to upload 100, what do you need to do? Just do a for each. That's it. So you'll just need to iterate over the number of blobs out there. Right, guys? Guys, any questions here? Anything?
In case if I need to upload two files, so can I give one more hyphen file and then file name, or I need to
So
use?
what you can do is that you can put your file names in an array, and then you need to do a for each out there because file here is expecting a string.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll have to pass your file names in an array and then do a for each over it. So very importantly, you'll have to understand what the language is actually talking about. And file here is expecting what? A string. So you will not be able to pass an array out here. So it'll say, you know what, hey, you know what, you are passing an array, but I am expecting a string. So I cannot accept this. And it will throw up. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so let me do one more thing
Yeah.
out here now. Yeah.
So what is the process to the upload the folder instead of file? So the same we need to use the hyphen file or
So what really happens out here is that a folder is nothing but a virtual concept, let's say in PowerShell, I mean, or in Azure as such. So you cannot directly upload a folder out here. You cannot even directly upload a folder using, let's say, your, directly the portal out here. So you won't be able to upload a folder. It's only files basically that you can upload. But if you want to upload a folder, there is a better way of doing it. Not this, but using Microsoft Storage Explorer. What Microsoft Storage Explorer does is that in the backend, it gives you something called as AZ copy. AZ copy kind of uploads folders, kind of upload files and all these things. So in all likely, if we are going to upload a folder, then we are generally, normally we generally go ahead and use the AZ copy command out here, or let's say the Storage Explorer out here to just go ahead and upload the entire folder out. Does it answer your question?
yes, I did on the storage explorer, so that's why I
Mhm.
asked. Okay.
Yeah, Storage Explorer is actually a bit away, but even here, you can't upload an entire folder as such, but you can upload all the files inside that folder to, let's say, the Azure storage account or the storage container.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, fine. Now this is good enough. So what I'll do again and now is like I'll create a new storage account right now. I'll try creating a new storage account. New hyphen AZ storage account. I'll say the name of the storage account. I'll take the same name. I'll pass something like the resource group name is like same thing again. Prod.rg. SKU name again standard LRS and stuff like that, and I'll just leave it here. Okay, I'm not passing anything more. Okay, location is one of the important parameters, so I'll just pass the location out here, like West US2 or East US. Now, if I execute this, guys, what is going to happen? Can anyone tell me what can happen here? Guys, anyone?
It will create a storage account, right?
But this storage account is already existing, right?
Yeah, so it will ask for the update. Yeah.
Okay, so let's try. Let's see what it's trying to do. It will fail no matter what you do. It will throw an error telling that no matter what you do, the storage account that you're trying to create is already existing. So I won't be able to create, and your script is going to break. No matter what you do, no matter how you do it, it's telling that, okay, fine, you know what? The storage account is like this. Okay, fine. I'll just fail out here. This is called an imperative way of writing your command of command writing. Meaning, what do you mean by imperative is that you need to make sure to pass on everything. User, meaning the one who's writing the script, needs to take care of everything. All the logic, all these things, they need to take care of it. PowerShell doesn't really help you out in, let's say, writing your logics. All the logic that you're trying to do is that you need to build that particular logic out there. Then is there, let's say, a better way of, let's say, creating my resources instead of PowerShell? I mean, is PowerShell not worth? PowerShell is definitely a very powerful tool, to go ahead and use out. But for infrastructure building, like meaning creating a storage account or creating a virtual machine or creating any other resources, it might not be a great set of tool. It might not be a great set of tool, meaning you need to have an understanding of programming. You need to have a bit of knowledge about the looping concepts and all these things. Now, Microsoft says, hey, you know what? You can do a better way of building this out, for which I have introduced something called as Azure Resource Manager templates, or in short called ARM templates. Guys, please focus. These are going to be very, 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 very important concepts. Now, generally, guys, what do you mean by a template? Like anything, any normal example. What do you really mean by a template out?
It already contained the required information. For example, VM template, we already build the server and keep it a copy. We can using
Mhm.
that, we can copy it.
Okay. So a much more generic example for people to follow is that, let's say, an email template. What do you have in an email template? Let's say you are working in an organization, you already have a template for sick leave. So you just type in sick leave and you get a complete email template saying that, hey, you know what, I'll not be available from this time to this time because I am sick. I'll be taking care of this. Meaning it already has pre-loaded content inside it. All you need to do is change a bit of few things out there. So the same concept was adopted by Microsoft and said, hey, you know what? why should my user, basically build everything from the scratch? Let me give them some preloaded content. And when I mean preloaded content out here, I am talking about the ARM language or the ARM templates. And what is the language or what is the syntax that is used by it? It is called as a JSON syntax. ARM templates follow something called as a JSON syntax. JSON is an acronym for JavaScript object notation. A very, very, very popular tool or very popular language when you are especially working with Microsoft products. Like a lot of Microsoft products actually support JSON, and a lot of Linux based operating systems also understand JSON. And ARM templates follow this particular syntaxing out here. So then how does an ARM template really look like? Then how can I really, write an ARM template? What do I really require basically to write something? All you need is the Visual Studio Code. So we've been talking about Visual Studio Code since the past few days. All you would need is a Visual Studio Code, and you will need an extension. So before starting this class, guys, of PowerShell, we said, you know what? We will go ahead and install an extension for PowerShell, right? In the same way, the marketplace out here also has extensions for ARM templates. Just type in ARM and select this one out, which is published by Microsoft. I have installed it already, but if you haven't, you'll just find an option to install. Just install it. It will take somewhere around a minute or two. That's it, not more than that. And you're all good. You're all set. Now then, how do you load an ARM template? Then what do you do to, let's say, load an ARM template? I'll say Control N. Firstly, let me clear the screen out. And I am now presented a new window. I'll say select language, and I'll say my language now is an Azure Resource Manager template. Good enough, right? So I just said, okay, fine, my language is like Azure Resource Manager template out here. So I want to build something using the ARM template. Now, in order to load the ARM template, meaning in order to, let's say, load things out here, what I would do is I'll say ARM. Just type in ARM and it will load a couple of suggestions out here. And if it doesn't load suggestions for you all, not to worry, just close this window, open this again, select the language, it will come automatically. And it says ARM, and I have so many things out here. And I want the first one called ARM /. If I just do this, Microsoft is going to give me a sample template, meaning it is preloaded a couple of things out here, telling it the schema, content version, parameters, functions, variables, resources, outputs. Now for now, let's take out outputs not required. So I'll basically slim down my template. I don't even need functions not required. So I'll make sure that my template has, let's say, the minimum amount of, meaning a lightweighted template out here, a minimum amount of sections that are need to be filled out. So I said, okay, fine, this is like ARM basically, and I just hit an enter and it loaded this particular template. The second thing what you need to do is save this out. I'll say, okay, fine, this is the folder that you're working in. So I'll say, this is a JSON, not a sample text. And I'll say, this is a sample ARM template and save. This is now saved, let's say, as something known as a JSON file. So if you look at this, the type of this is a JSON file out here. And you can open this using a Visual Studio, full version, or a Visual Studio Code, whatever, or a Notepad++ also kind of supports your JSON files. Then what are all these things? Like, what are really all these things? What is schema? What is content version? What are parameters? And how do we, play around with all these things? So let's see. First thing, schema. Schema is nothing but a validation link out here. So it's nothing but a link out here. And why do you need this link? What happens if you visit this link? Let us also visit this link and see what happens. So let me erase all these things out. And if I, let's say, control and click this out, it is nothing but a JSON language. It is nothing but a complete JSON structure, meaning this is, let's say, nothing but an online store of Microsoft telling that, hey, you know what? If you are using my templates, if you are using something called as ARM templates that I am providing it out to you, make sure to use something called as a schema. Meaning, this is the first section that I will evaluate and I will see whether this template is something that I trust or not. Is this something that I trust or not? Yes, I trust it. Great. You are good now. That is the first thing which is called as a schema out here. Meaning, when you type in schema, every schema is going to have a default date out here. Meaning Microsoft has released that particular schema during that particular date. Do you have to do anything out here? Nothing. You can just consume the existing schema out there. Second, you have something known as a content version. It says content version is 1.0.0.0, which is good enough. I don't even have to do anything with this. Third, you have parameters, variables, and resources. Now, what we were creating, guys, we were doing, let's say, something like a storage account, right? So let's talk about a storage account using, let's say, an Azure Resource Manager template. And let's do a reverse engineering. Now, parameters, variables used for reusability, meaning they are there for reusability. But let's not focus on that right now. Let's come to it again. But let me try to create some resource using an ARM template. Now, and I want to create what? I want to create a storage account. This section out here is the heart of your entire template. This section out here helps you create resources like a virtual machine, like a storage account, like whatever resources are there out there. And you will have to declare your resources out here. And if you see this, guys, parameters is starting with a flower bracket. Variables is starting again with a flower bracket. But this is starting with a what? A square bracket. Now, what does square bracket mean? Square bracket means that this is an array. Meaning, I am not allowing you to just create one resource. I'm allowing you to create n number of resources. Because I am giving you what? I am giving you a freedom to go ahead and declare an array of what? Resources. Meaning, what can I do right now? Then how can I really declare this out? So let's say erase. How can I really declare this out? So I'm coming here, and syntaxing is very, very important in ARM template, guys. So don't miss any commas and all that stuff. So I'm coming here and I'm saying enter. And what do I want to create now? I want to create something called as a storage account. As and when I type in storage, it's telling, hey, you know what? ARM-storage. I understand you want to create what? A storage account. So I have a couple of suggestions like this. So I can also give you a Cosmos. I can also give you something else. But I am looking at something called as a storage account. I'll say, hey, you know what? Yeah, you got me right. This is the one that I want to create. Go ahead and click on enter. I did do nothing. I just took something called a storage. I said enter, and I am now presented with let's say an entire lines of code. Now look at this, guys. This bracket is closing out here, and even before this bracket, I am closing this particular resource out here. This is the entire code for that particular resource. This is, let's say, the entire code basically or this is the entire code that is required to build your resource out here. Guys, any questions still here? Okay.
Sorry, have you used space after typing storage?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Have you used a space after you type storage to display the suggestion?
I did a control space that will load the IntelliSense.
Okay.
So control and then space, a combination of both the things. So the first time that you load this out, right, it might not, completely load. So you can close it out and again, kind of load this out. So that's how it'll work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Fine. So let's decode this code. Let's understand what this code is actually asking you. So let me take again this one and say the first thing it's asking me out here in line number 8 is that, hey, you know what? What is the name of your storage account? So storage account name. And what is the convention, guys? Name should be 3 to 24, unique, no special characters. Secondly, it's asking me, you know what? I know that you are, using an ARM template. So when you're trying to, upload this particular ARM template into the Azure portal, I need to understand what is the type of resource that you're trying to create. This is very, very, very important. The indicator, meaning what is the resource you're creating? Is it a storage account? Is it a web app? How do I know it? I know it by this Microsoft.storage/storage accounts. API version by default filled up by Microsoft. You don't have to do anything out here. You'll say, okay, fine, I am giving you an API version, so you can, let's say, you can play around with that. Tags, guys, do you all know what tags are? Can anyone help me what tags are really out here? Guys,
Tags is
anyone?
used to segregate the things.
For identification purpose, right? So
Yeah.
it's asking me, hey, you know what? You are creating a storage account. I also have an option to go ahead and tag your resource. I can add tags here. You can add tags here. So do you want to enter any tags? Is this mandatory? It is optional. You can also delete this out if you don't want this. But if you want to add it, just say team is development. If you want to add another tag, comma, owner is xyz@gmail.com. Good enough. Now it's giving me an error telling that, you know what? After closing the tag, you did not give a comma. Give a comma, your template comes back into shape again. Says, okay, fine, good. Then what is the location that you want to create your resource group in? Sorry, location that you want to create your storage account in. I'll say, okay, fine, there is like something called resource group or something like this. Let's take this out for now. Let's take this out completely for now. And I'll say it is ECS2. Let me hard code it. I'll say the location that I want to create this is in ECS2. Kind of storage account is storage v2, and the storage tier, whether it's a premium storage account that you're trying to do, whether it's a standard storage account that you're trying to do. I'll say it is a standard LRS. So make sure that you're not doing any spelling mistakes of this. So standard LRS out here, done. Our template is ready to go. But there is one small issue out here, which is my name, which is not unique. So I'll say this is dev test store account 200 ABC, just to make sure that my name is unique. So I'm giving a proper name out here. This is called the nomenclature of the entire ARM template, or the syntaxing of the entire ARM template. Very, very important parameters: name, type, API version. Tags, not essential. Location, while you are creating a storage account, guys, location was a mandatory parameter, right? So this is also a mandatory parameter out here. Kind, yes, was a mandatory parameter. Skew was a mandatory parameter. Then where is access tier? By default, if you go ahead and create this out, it will create the storage account in a hot access tier. So these are all the default parameters. You do not have to declare it. So I am doing a very lightweighted template. I'm saying, okay, fine. I just need just the storage account out here in this particular location, in this particular skew, and I'm good with this. Okay. Then if you're good with this, how do you deploy it? How do you go ahead and let's say deploy your storage account? I mean, deploy the ARM template into Microsoft Azure. How do you do that? Is again by using PowerShell. There is a very simple command line in PowerShell. Now this particular script, PS1, like this particular PS test and the storage template are sitting in the same directory, and I'm working from the same directory, which is good enough. So if I do a dot backslash, and if I do like this one, I have all these things out here. The storage ARM template.json and all these things. Good enough. So what I'll do is like, if I don't know what is a command, I'll say, you know what, deploying ARM templates using PowerShell script. ARM template something, and you will have something called as, like if you read through the documentation, you'll find something called as new -az resource group deployment. This is the command that you generally use in order to go ahead and deploy an ARM template into Azure. Let's say the Azure resource group. But for this to happen, you will need a resource group to exist. So let's go ahead, create a quick resource group out there. I'll say it's a developer RG, and go ahead and review and create this out. So I'm not considering what the location is and all that stuff. So I'm just going ahead and saying, okay, fine, deploy this out, which is good enough. So I have a developer RG that is created. So I am now good enough right now. Now then, what is the commandlet? How do I declare it out? So I'll say new -az resource group deployment. Resource group name is developer RG. Name of the deployment, meaning the deployment name I'm initiating is, let's say, storage account test. Just a very simple name out here. Then where is your template file? It's asking you, hey, you know what? I understand this is an ARM template deployment. Where is your template file? Can you please give me that? And it's expecting what? A JSON file out here. And this is my file. Do I need anything else? Not at all. So let me try doing this out. Let me try, say, executing this out. So it says, okay, fine. I'm starting the PowerShell terminal right now. And let me, take a second or two, and I will try deploying your template if everything is fine. Now this deployment, you can also go ahead and see it here. There's a developer RG, and under the resource group, you have a setting called deployments. This is the name of the deployment that we have actually given, right? Storage account test. And it's saying, you know what? I am deploying your storage account through, let's say, PowerShell from your local machine. And now it's trying to validate my deployment and see what am I deploying. And now this says, you know what? If you go to that particular portal, it says, you know what? I am done. Like I have deployed it. I am good with that. I saw the template, I evaluated it. I'm all good. I have deployed it. And you have a dev test storage account created in, let's say, LRS, created in, let's say, ECS2, created in, let's say, storage V2 and hot tier. Guys, are we good with this? Any questions here?
Can we use existing resource group?
We can use an
template?
existing resource group, yes.
But the command says new resource group deployment. So will that
Now,
work if
the
we
command
use?
is not new hyphen AZ resource group creation. The command is a new hyphen AZ resource group deployment, meaning it's a deploying something into a resource group, whether be
Oh,
existing or whether be a new one. It doesn't really mind about it.
okay.
Okay. Now, what if I take the same template and deploy it again? I'm not doing any change. I'm just taking the same template. I'll deploy it back again. Simple. I'll take this and I'll say this is like test one. I'll say okay, fine. Execute it again. It will not fail. Unlike PowerShell script, which is an which is an imperative way of command writing, ARM template is a declarative way of command writing. ARM templates are smart enough to understand, hey, you know what? I am going into a mode called incremental, meaning if the user is giving me a template in which I have to deploy something called as a storage account, which has a name, location, tier, and all these things, I'll first compare what is there on the Azure portal. Is it existing? Okay, yes, it does. Is it has the same name? Yes, it does. Is it has the same location? Yes, it does. Then what I'll do is I'll just evaluate everything and I'll not throw an error. I'll not throw an error out here. Until and unless your syntax is good, I won't throw an error. I'll just do an incremental approach. Meaning I'll see if it is existing. If it is not existing, I'll go ahead and create. If it is existing, I'll just evaluate it and I won't do anything. That's what it would have done here. Storage account one test was the second deployment that I initiated out. It did not do anything. It did not, let's say, do anything out here. It just went ahead and evaluated it. That's it. It said, okay, fine, I'm evaluating you, so not to worry, I won't destroy you. What if I want to change that here from not standard LRS to standard GRS? What is here, guys, right now? The storage account is in which queue? It is, let's say, in a standard LRS queue, right? I'll say, okay, fine, great, good enough. Save this out. Execute the same command again. You don't even have to write anything out there. Now, what is it gonna do is that it's now going to again compare. So what is there in your template? What is there, let's say, on the Azure portal? I'll do a comparison. Oh, okay, fine. I see one property to be changed. The SKU that I see on the portal is standard LRS, but the user is trying to give me what? A standard GRS. I will just change that particular SKU into standard GRS. That's it. It'll just do an incremental mode of approach out here. It'll just say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I am good with that. Standard GRS is great. Let me just change it. That's it. Guys, are we good with this? Any questions before we move forward in the class? Did anyone did not understand any of the part?
So in the template, we are already mentioned the storage account name. Then
Mhm.
why we need to again mention on the deployment?
No, see the storage account name out here is what dev test storage something something something. Is it the same name in the deployment? No, right?
No, no.
This is the name of the deployment that you're giving. This is the name of the deployment that you're actually taking to the portal.
Okay,
Meaning
okay.
what
So
happened? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, understand. So whatever there in the template, that That is the name of the storage account.
deployment.
This is
This is the name of the storage account. This is just a sample name
called.
that you're giving to your deployment, telling
Okay.
that, hey, you know what? This is the deployment that I'm giving. If you don't give this name, the command is not going to fail. It is just going to take a random name out here. But this becomes very important for debugging, meaning your templates are failing. So you will see, okay, fine, what is the failure message? It will tell, you know what, this is the failure message out there. It will show what is the failure message and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then why are
Uh, Sorry, when you run
go ahead.
second time, does it create with same name dev test storage account 2000
So
db3?
what does it do is like it compares whether this name exists. It says existing. Then it will look at all these properties out here. It'll say, okay, fine, this is standard GRS. This is like this one. Is there any change? And if there is any change, it will go ahead and make that change out here. But if I edit this name to something like XYZ, now the XYZ is not there. If I execute this again, it will go ahead and create that particular storage account with that particular name, because that storage account doesn't exist. So it does an if else loop. If it's existing, I'll say, hey, you know what? I just verified it. If it is not, I'll go ahead and create it. Does it
Okay,
answer your
got it.
question, Sanjay? Yeah,
Yeah, got it. If it already exists, it will modify. If not, it will create.
correct.
It will throw error,
It
right?
it will no, it will not throw any errors out here.
Okay, it will just overwrite.
It will just say, it will compare it. If there is anything that is different, it will override. If there isn't anything at all different at all, it won't do anything. It will just say, I'm good. Now you see, if you see
Okay.
this, I've just changed the name of the storage account, right? You'll probably find another storage account in a couple of minutes out here. Like if you look at this particular deployment, it went in and it went ahead and created a new storage account out here with XYZ. Because now the template name is XYZ.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Then the question is, if I want to change, meaning again, like yesterday, what we are doing is that we are hard coding the name out here, right? We are hard coding the name, we are hard coding the location, all these things, we are hard coding it out here, which I'm not okay with. Because what this does is that this makes your template very static in nature. If let's say you want to change something, you'll have to come here, you'll have to change this particular name, you'll have to change the location, you'll have to do all that stuff, and you'll have to deploy your template again. But is there any other way to make my template dynamic and not static? That is the reason Microsoft says, that is the exact reason I'm giving you something called as a parameter section. Please go ahead and make use of it to declare your parameters. Now, guys, yesterday we did something called param, right? PARAM, and we declared parameters inside it, right? This is the param for ARM templates. Then how do I declare it? What is the syntax of it? So I want to parameterize my storage account name firstly. So I'll say storage account name. It doesn't have to be like this. You can also give ABC, XYZ, whatever it is. So I'll say, to have a proper meaning to it, storage account name, semicolon, colon, and it automatically tells you, hey, you know what, you'll have to declare this. It says, okay, good enough. Now tell me, what is the type of this particular parameter? Is it a string? Is it an array? Is it an integer? What is it? Guys, by default, what is the name? What type of data is like storage account name out here? Guys, anyone? Is it a string? Is it,
String,
let's say, an array?
string, string,
String,
string.
right?
String.
I'll say type is what? String. And I'll do a comma out here. And I'll say the default value of it is something like store to ZZ account ABC XYZ, something to be unique. I'll say the default name is something like this, the default value, meaning by default you know go ahead and create me something like this. Then how do you pass this value that you declared here to this particular section? Because right now it is still what, hard coded, right? And I want to make it what, dynamic. And say okay fine, since I want to make it dynamic, I would like to use this. And how do I like to use this? Just erase this completely out. Inside quotes, square brackets, and call parameters storage account name. So what am I saying? These are called functions in Azure Resource Manager templates. So I am saying, you know what, whenever name comes in, go for your parameter section and see what is the default value of this particular guy. This is your identifier. Go ahead and bring that to me. Now I will say, you know what, okay, this is good. I will also want to go ahead and parameterize my location. So can I do it? Can I say parameters and then location? It's throwing an error here, right? Telling, you know what, this is an undefined parameter. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not sure where I need to look at, because there is no parameter here at all. Then can I declare another parameter? Of course you can. Just put a comma here and say location. Type again is what, is a string, and the error is gone. So I am just making sure that, you know what, whatever I'm trying to declare out there, meaning whatever I'm trying to parameterize out here, is already declared in here. Now what if I want to, let's say, give a value to the location, like a default value to the location? I can say it is location, sorry, it is default value. I'll say West US 2. This is the default value of my location out here. So what am I doing out here, guys? I am parameterizing everything out. I'm making sure to parameterize this out. Guys, then if I want to parameterize the SKU type, can anyone help me what to do here? Guys, can anyone help me if I want to sorry?
One more we need to declare
Exactly.
parameter in double quote.
Right. So one more we will have to declare. I'll say SKU type. And I'll say the default value or the type basically firstly is in string, because also this is a string, and the default value is what, in double quotes, standard LRS. And here I can do what, I can use that particular parameter out here, telling that, you know what, this parameters SKU type, and save. Meaning now I am parameterizing everything out. I am parameterizing, meaning I am making sure my template is dynamic now. Making sure that my template here is like dynamic right now. Now can I execute it out right now? Of course, yes, use the same command, nothing different. I can say the same this one, I can say the same name, I can say the same this one, and I'll just give it a save right now. Now, if I deploy it, I will get a storage account with the name what? Something like this, in location West US2, in let's say a SKU type called standard LRS. But while the time of deployment, I changed my mind. I don't want it in West US2, I want it in East US2. Can I change it? Now you see you also have a location parameter that is popping up telling that, hey, you know what? You have declared something in the location. Do you want to change it? Yes, I do. East US 2. If I give a space, it's also telling me, you know what? I also see something called as queue type. I'll say, you know what? I know I declared something like standard LRS, but the client now wants it is as standard GRS. I think the spelling is wrong. GNDART. Let's look at this one. Okay. Standard what? GRS. And now if I execute it out, it will now go ahead, validate the template and create me a storage account with the name storage something in the location East US 2 because I have overridden this particular value. I overrode this particular value using this particular command out here and in standard GRS, not LRS, because while passing the command on the runtime, I went ahead and overrode this out. This is the main advantage that you get while you are using a parameter sections out here. See, now it says, you know what? Search account is created. These are the parameters that you actually passed. And you overrode those parameters with this. What if you forget to pass this out? What if you forget all these things out and you just execute the template? It will pick up the values from the default value. But if you override it, meaning if you pass it out explicitly to your command, it will override all these values that you kind of declared out here. And the number of parameters you declare here, the number of overrides that you can get. Now you can also have another override like storage account name because even that's a parameter that you pass. So here, look at the beauty of it. You can give any number of storage names, n number of storage names by just having this only one command, just taking that particular storage name and giving a new one. You don't even have to come to your template. You don't even have to come to your template and make edits out here. This is how we normally go ahead and make sure we parameterize things out. Now there's one more section called variables, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. But just to give you a trivia of it, it's nothing but if you want, let's say all your storage accounts, let's say that you're deploying using this template to only get created in a location called West US, if you declare it in variables, you cannot change it during the time of deployment. So all the static values is something that you can declare in your variable section. That is the only difference between a parameter and a variable. And the variable syntax declaration is also a bit different. So we'll also look into that also. Guys, is this clear? Does this help you all out? Any questions that I can take? Guys, anything?
So we should declare the storage account name so it will change.
Yeah, if you declare the storage account name here while deployment, if you say, let's say storage account name and say it is store account 2ZZ ABC XYZ. If this storage account is not existing, it will go ahead and create one new. So I have even overwritten my storage account name. So whatever was here gets overridden by this particular command. This is exactly the reason why parameter section is present here, to override things out. Is that okay, Akila?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Can you please show me where we can see deployment in the Azure portal?
The deployment as in the
Yes.
deployment section you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
So I am at the resource group level. This is the resource group that I've used to deploy things out. This is the deployment.
In the
So there's
resource
an
group, we can find it.
yes, in the resource group blade, you'll have something called as deployments out here. If you click on this, you will see all the deployments that you've done in the past.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, any questions?
In real time, these ARM templates, it will be there. If required, we just need to modify and then we need to run to deploy the resources, right?
It depends upon what you are trying to really achieve out. For example, in my case, I create a lot of ARM templates from the scratch because I don't want to use something that is existing out there. Because my work usually kind of has a custom requirement. So I modify all my ARM templates. Like I write it and then modify it out. So it
Okay.
depends whether, yeah,
When customer requested, we want this much resource group or storage account or VMs, then we need to
mhm,
use this ARM templates and deploy it.
correct.
Okay.
And one thing to remember is that ARM templates are Azure specific. This is a native product of Microsoft. ARM Azure Resource Manager template is a native product of Microsoft. So you cannot be using these ARM templates to deploy it onto another cloud like an AWS or a GCP. It's only for Azure. This is only purely for Azure.
Okay.
Can we send multiple storage account names in the default value?
So you can, but the type has to be array and not a string when you declare
Okay.
something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
It should be not a string, but an array out here. Like, if you look at the types, right, it'll tell you array. And you'll have to declare
Okay.
an array. It's telling, see, it's giving you an error telling that, what, I am expecting an array, but you pass me a string out here. So we'll also see how you can do that. We can see how you can create, let's say, using one particular template, how you can create multiple resources of the same type or of a different type and all that stuff. Any further questions, guys?
And how we create the resource using ARM? Similarly, we can use it for remove also, right? In case decommissioning.
So what happens in a decommissioning is that it works in a very different way. ARM templates cannot be used to remove, meaning by the nature of it, by the default nature of it, you cannot use to remove resources using an ARM template because by default it works in an incremental mode. So it is not destructive, it is rather incremental. So if you want to remove a resource, you will have to run the ARM template in something called as a complete mode. These are called modes of ARM template. We'll be discussing about what a mode of ARM template is and all that, but highly suggested that you don't run it in a complete mode. Please take incremental only. But if you are like really adamant and say, hey, you know what, I want to destroy all my resources, that's when you go ahead and do a complete deployment of this. We'll also look at what complete deployment is and how it really behaves on the portal and all that stuff.
Okay.
Guys, any questions that I can take before we close the session for today? Were you all able to follow this out?
And we create
Yes.
the resource also, which means you defaultly created in the Azure, right?
The
So
resource
using
group.
the JSON, we should create the resource also, resource group, yeah.
So you won't be able to create a resource group using an ARM template. So that is one of the drawbacks of an ARM. You won't be able to create a resource group using it. So you can have a PowerShell script in before and then create a resource group and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
And this JSON, do we need to start learning the basic things, or whatever we are learning that is okay for ARM templates?
Whatever we are learning at this point in time, that is like more than okay for JSON. Like, so, you just have to understand the basic syntaxing of JSON and that is like good enough. And whenever you miss a syntax, the ARM template will, get highlighted in a red color out there, and it also say where what error that you're doing out there.
Okay.
For PowerShell?
So for PowerShell also it's the same way. So I mean, like, are you asking whether it throws an error when you do that, or are
Yeah.
you asking is there anything else that we need to learn for PowerShell?
No, what you told us, so it was enough for the PowerShell.
So yes, you can, for starting it is yes, but you'll need to do a lot of practice with PowerShell. And same applies to ARM template also, guys. Like whatever we discuss in, let's say, the 1 hour session, yes, that's very more, I mean, that's more than enough for, let's say, the basics of it. But you need to build on top of it. You need to try out, different things out. Let's say, I have taught you all how to go ahead and create, let's say, blobs inside, upload blobs inside, let's say, a storage account. Go ahead and delete those blobs again the next time that you're doing. The next time that you're doing, go ahead and upload many blobs into it. The basic concepts, the underlying concepts would be the same. If logic, for each loop, all these looping concepts would be the same. But the thing is, PowerShell is not done yet. There is a lot of PowerShell that we need to cover out there. So what I'm trying to do in this particular week is I'm trying to set the context of what we're going into, like ARMs, PowerShell, and etc. And after each and every resource, we're again going and coming back to see how to create that particular resource using PowerShell, because that's like a never-ending concept again. So that's the reason we will say, what, we will just set the basics of everything, and then we'll start learning and and building things on top of it. Is that okay,
Okay.
guys?
Yeah. And regarding storage accounts and all containers, whatever we create, we need to delete it, right? Else it will be charged.
Yeah, it will charge, yes.
Okay.
So highly suggestible that you go ahead and delete things out as and when your practice is done.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, I'll stopping the recording session.